Hey everyone, welcome. It's Joe Biden. And Joe Biden's gonna watch Joe Biden's speech. Because Joe Biden likes to watch his speech like a football player. So I can get better. I'm already good. I'm the best. But I can do better. Let's watch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why don't they applaud for Joe Biden?
Good afternoon. Before I take questions, I want to give you a progress report.
I'm doing awesome.
On where we stand 65 days into office here.
I'm the first president to have a press conference this late in the game.
People. First, on vaccinations. On December 8th, I indicated that I hope to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first
100 million.
We
Damn,
met that
I'm
goal
good.
last week by day 58, 42 days ahead of schedule. Now today I'm setting a second goal, and that is we will, by my
42
100th
plus
day in office,
58.
have administered 200 million shots in people's arms. That's right, 200 million shots in 100 days.
And that's
Now,
700
I know
people's
it's
arms.
ambitious, twice our original goal, but no other country in the world has even come close, not even close to what we are doing.
Even the
I
countries
believe we
we've
can do it.
already bombed.
And today, we made a historic investment in reaching the hardest hit and the most vulnerable communities, the highest risk communities, as a consequence of the virus, by investing an additional $10 billion in being able to reach them. I also set a goal before I took office of getting a majority of schools
Majority.
in K through 8 fully open in the first 100 days. Now, thanks to the enormous amount of work done by our administration,
In closing them,
educators, parents, local, state education officials, and leaders, recent Department of Education survey shows that nearly half of the K through 8 schools are open now full-time, 5 days a week for in-person learning.
that's like
Not yet a
50%.
majority, but we're really close, and I believe in the 35 days left to go, we'll meet that goal as well. As of yesterday, more than 100 million payments of $1,400 have gone into people's bank accounts.
That's
real
a
money
lot of
in people's
dinero.
Pockets, bringing relief instantly almost.
That's like the
And
dinero the
millions
Chinese
more
gave
will be getting
me.
their money very soon. One final note. Since we passed the American Rescue Plan, we're starting to see new signs of hope in our economy. Since it was passed, a majority of economic forecasters have significantly increased their projections on the economic growth that's going to take place this year.
And I pay them good money to do that.
Projecting it will exceed 6%, a 6% growth in GDP. And just this morning, we learned the number of people filing for weekly unemployment insurance fell by nearly 100,000 persons. It's the first time in a year the number has fallen below pre-pandemic highs. So there are still too many Americans out of work, too many families hurting, and they still have a lot of work
And we
to do.
know, because we hurt them.
But I can say to you, the American people, help is here and hope is on the way. Now I'll be happy to take your questions.
Oh, this is where I shine.
Zeke, the Associated Press.
Oh, I love Zeke.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Ask me a good question, Zeke.
I'd like to ask you about some of the other issues facing your presidency. One of the defining challenges you face in the coming months is how to deliver on your promise to Americans on issues like immigration reform, gun control, voting rights, climate change. All of those right now are facing stiff, united opposition from Republicans on Capitol Hill. How far
Bad
are you willing to
Republicans.
go to achieve those promises that you made to the American people?
Well, I'm good. Look, when
You see, I
I
say,
took
look,
office,
gives me time to think.
I decided that
So I just want to begin today with something that I never do, but I'm going to do it now. Okay, I really don't do this because it's self-serving and it seems silly.
it was a fairly basic, simple proposition. And that is, I got elected to solve problems.
That's what I
And the
do.
most urgent problem facing the American people, I stated from the outset,
The lack of ice cream.
was COVID-19
Well, that too.
and the economic dislocation for millions and millions of Americans. And so that's why I put all my focus in the beginning. There are a lot of problems, but all my focus on dealing with those particular problems.
So much focus, I can't walk
And the
upstairs.
other problems we're talking about, from immigration to guns and the other things you mentioned, are long-term problems. They've been around a long time.
Long time, like Joe
And
Biden.
what we're going to be able to do, God willing, is now begin one at a time to focus on those as well.
God willing.
And whether it's immigration or guns or a number of other problems that face the country.
Ice cream.
But the fundamental problem is getting people some peace of mind so they can go to bed at night and not stare at the ceiling, wondering whether they lost their health insurance, whether they're going to lose a family member, whether they're going to be in a position where they're going to lose their home because they can't pay their mortgage.
Joe Biden gonna give us the money.
People are going to get thrown out of their homes because of the inability to pay their rent. So we're going to move on these one at a time, try to do as many simultaneously as we can, but that's the reason why I focused as I have. And here's the deal. I think my Republican colleagues are going to have to determine whether or not we want to work together, or they'll decide that the way in which they want to proceed is to decide to divide the country.
Yeah.
Continue the politics of division.
That's a tough word,
I'm not going
divide.
to do that. I'm just going to move forward.
I almost never use that
these
word.
things as they come.
Follow up, Mr. President. Can your presidency be a success if you can't make progress on those four challenges: climate
How much
change,
more
immigration
success
reform,
you
gun
need?
control, voting
What kind of
rights?
question
Well,
is
I
that?
plan on making progress on all of them, but that's going to be for the American people to decide.
That's
I
right.
think, I doubt
Under the new
whether
laws of
maybe you
voting.
did, maybe others did. I thought, many of you thought there was no possibility of my getting the plan I got passed.
But I'm the most popular
Republican
president ever.
Pretty big deal.
Big
Got
deal.
passed.
Got passed.
Growing the economy.
Growing the
People's
economy.
lives are changing.
Lives
So
changing.
let's see what happens. All
Let's
I
see
know,
what
I'm
happens.
hired to solve problems. To
I'm a
solve
problem
problems,
solver.
not create division.
Not create division.
Okay. How about?
That's why we support the LGBTQ ABC.
Thanks so much, Mr. President. You've said over and over again that immigrants shouldn't come to this country right now. This isn't the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception of you
I love
that
the
got you
evidence.
elected as a moral, decent man is the reason
I
why
am a
immigrants
moral,
are coming to
decent
this
man.
country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors. How do you resolve that tension?
the minors smell
And
good.
How are you choosing which families can stay and which can go, given the fact that even though with Title 42 there are
The
some families that are
best
staying,
smelling
and is there a
children
timeline for
get to
when
go in
we
first.
won't be seeing these overcrowded facilities
It's simple.
run by CPB when it comes to unaccompanied minors?
Well, look, I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy. That's the reason why it's happening.
I
And I'm
am.
a decent man, or however it's phrased. That's why they're coming, because Biden's a good guy.
I'm a good
The
guy.
truth of the matter is, nothing has changed.
Nothing has
As many
changed.
people came, 28% increase in children to the border in my administration.
28%.
in the last year in 2019, before the pandemic, in the Trump administration. It's happened
Those are
every
numbers.
single solitary year. There is a significant increase in the number of people coming to the border in the winter months of January, February, March. It happens every
And
year.
that's the winter.
In addition to that, there is and by the way, does anybody
And by the
suggest
way-
that there was a 31% increase under Trump because he was a nice guy and he was doing good things at the border?
He was orange man
That's not the reason
mad.
they're coming. The reason they're coming is that it's the time they can travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because of the heat in the desert, number one. Number
In the
two,
winter.
they're coming
Number
because
two.
of the circumstances in country.
In
In
country.
country. The way to deal with this problem, and I started to deal with it back when I was a United States Senator, Vice President, putting together
A senator,
a
vice
bipartisan
president, it's all
plan
the
of over
same.
$700 million to to do with the root causes of why people are leaving.
$700 million.
He eliminated that funding. He didn't use it.
Eliminated $700 million.
And in addition to that, what he did, he dismantled all the elements that exist to deal with what had been a problem and has been continued to be a problem for a long time.
You know, these words are hard.
In fact, shut down the number of beds available. He did not fund HHS.
Why would he shut them down? The kids in cages that we called it.
Those border patrol facilities where they should not be and not supposed to be more than.
Now they are border control facilities.
But he dismantled all of that. So what we're doing now,
he dismantled
is attempting to rebuild the system that can accommodate what is happening today.
Build back better.
I'd like to think it's because I'm a nice guy, but it's not.
Because I'm a nice guy.
Every year. Let me say
I put up with my son who drinks,
take a look
who has lots of drugs and has prostitutes.
The vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back. Are being sent back.
To the terrible countries that I just said are very violent.
Thousands of people who are over 18 years of age and single people, one at a time coming, have been sent back.
Because they have got to be on Tinder in other countries.
The families that are coming. We're trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back.
Take them.
That's what's happening. They're not getting across the border.
They're not getting across the border.
Coming across the border who are unaccompanied children. We're moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled.
Moving rapidly upstairs.
For example, of all the children who are coming across the border, over 70% are either 16 or 17 years old.
16
We're
or
not
17.
Talking about people ripping babies from mother's arms.
No, we don't have babies ripping from arms.
Less than, I think it's 1.5%.
1.5%?
In the category of the very young.
The very young.
What we're doing is we're providing.
They haven't
for the
even
space,
begun to
again,
smell good yet.
To be able to get these kids out of the border patrol facilities, which
get them out.
Child, no one should be in any longer than 72 hours.
72 hours.
I went to, for example, I used all the resources available to me. Went to the Defense Department, and
all the resources
the Secretary of Defense has just made available Fort Bliss 5,000 beds.
5,000 beds.
Immediately available.
Fort Bliss.
5,000 beds in the Texas.
That's a nice place.
So we're building back up the capacity.
Build it back better.
That should have been maintained and built upon.
Yeah.
That Trump.
So more people could come here.
It's going to take time. And the other
it's
thing
going to take time.
I might add,
you can't be mean to me.
I'm not an answer because if you don't want the detail.
Oh, you don't want the detail?
No, but I mean, I don't know.
I'm trying to answer your question.
Immigration. Maybe I'll stop there for you.
Yeah, I'm going to stop.
The follow-up question is, one, if you could talk a little bit about which families, why they're being allowed to stay, what the families that are being allowed to stay, why they're being allowed to stay. In addition to that, when it comes to the filibuster, which is what Steve was asking about, there's immigration is a big issue, of course, when it relates to the filibuster, but there's also Republicans who are passing bill after bill trying to restrict voting rights.
Damn Republicans.
Chuck Schumer is calling it an existential threat to democracy.
It
Why
is.
not back a filibuster?
Then a Democrat might lose.
Issues including voting rights or immigration. Jim Clyburn, someone of course who you know very well, has backed the idea of a filibuster rule when it comes to civil rights and voting rights.
Well, look, we're going to deal with all of those problems. The question is,
we're going to deal with them all.
Priorities as they come.
I got lots of energy to do that.
The first question you asked. The first of the second questions.
First of the second question? I don't know.
What about dealing with families? Why are not some not going back? Because Mexico is refusing to take them back.
Yeah, it's Mexico's problem.
They're saying they won't take them back. Not all of them. We're in negotiations with the president of Mexico.
President of Mexico.
They should all be going back.
Oh, take them all.
The only people we're not going to let sitting there on the other side of the Rio Grande by themselves with no help are children. And
we just want your good smelling children.
To understand. I know you understand it. I don't mean to say it that way.
Oh, you don't understand.
To focus on.
Oh, I do.
The vast majority of people under
you
the
people
age
are
of 18
stupid. That's what I'm saying.
Come with a telephone number on a wristband, or come with a telephone number in their pocket in the United States.
That's very convenient.
A mother, a father, a close relative, a grandmama or grandpa, What was happening before is it's taking literally weeks and weeks and maybe even months before anybody pick up the phone and call to see if there really was someone there. Well, we've set up a system now where within 24 hours there's a phone call made as that person, that child crosses the border.
We are using the modern technology
and then
of
a verification
phones.
system being put in place as of today.
Today there are
determine quickly
phones.
whether or not that is a trafficker being called or that is actually a mom, a dad, and or a close relative.
They ain't gonna lie on the
They're
phone.
establishing that right off the bat. If
We
it
call
in
'em up.
fact is mom or dad,
You mom, dad, or
says,
trafficker?
take the extreme case, I got a birth
I'm
certificate.
dad. Oh, all
And
right.
guess what? We're getting that kid directly to that parent.
Whoever's on the phone.
immediately. And so
They gonna
that's
get
going to
'em.
reduce significantly. There's two ways
Oh,
to reduce child
significantly.
populations in circumstances that are not acceptable, like being held at a border patrol station. One is to get them to the place where they have a relative and set a date as to when a hearing can be held.
Set a
The
date and a
second way
hearing.
to do
It's
it
as
is
simple
put them
as
in
that.
a Health and Human Services facility that we're occupying now, both licensed beds around the country that exist, as well as, for
And we
example,
wrap them up like
federal
burritos.
resources like Fort Bliss, to get them safely in a place where they
Do you know
can
how
be
much
taken
floor
care of
space there
while
is
the
at
state
Fort
is
Bliss?
concerned.
I can have thousands of immigrants there.
Filibuster. Filibuster.
Filibuster. I
know,
filibuster you.
With regard to the filibuster, I believe we should go back to a position of the filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. And that is that.
And that
it
is
used to be
because
required for the
I am a
filibuster, and
vampire.
I had a
Joe
card on
Biden,
this, so I was going to give you the
I
statistics.
drink blood.
You probably know
That's
that.
why I'm 120
That
years
used to
in the
be
Senate. I'm actually
that
114 years
between 1917 and
old.
1971, the filibuster existed. There were a total of 58 motions to break a filibuster. That whole time. Last year alone, there were 5 times that many. So it's being abused in a gigantic way.
Gigantic
For
way.
example, it used to be you had to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk until you collapsed. And guess what? People got tired of talking and tired of collapsing. Filibusters broke down and we were able to break the filibuster, get a quorum and vote.
I remember. I said it
So
to Abe Lincoln
I
at the
strongly
time.
support moving in that direction. In addition to having an open mind about dealing with certain things that are just elemental to the functioning of our democracy, like the right to vote, like the basic right to vote.
That's a basic
We
right.
amended the filibuster in the past. But here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
As you observed, I'm a fairly practical guy.
And very
I want to get
old
things done.
for 120.
I want to get them
140.
done consistent with what we promised the American people.
Consistently.
In order to do that, in a 50-50 Senate, we've got to get to the place where I get 50 votes so that the Vice President of the United States can break the tie. Where
It's
I get
as simple
51
as
votes
that.
without her. And so
You got to do that
I'm
for
going
me.
to say something outrageous.
I'm going to say something
I've
outrageous.
never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate.
I know that's
So
outrageous.
the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway,
Yeah, you know,
we're ready to get a lot done. And if we have to, if there's
I didn't need to
complete
finish that thought.
lockdown and chaos,
I think we all knew what I was
then
thinking.
we'll have to go beyond what I'm talking about.
Hey, I'm 140 years old, 140 teen.
Okay, hang on.
Oh, let me check my card. I think I did pretty good
Oh.
for a man over 100 years old.
Ms. Kim.
Kim?
Thank you, Mr. President. To follow up on the filibuster, so do you believe it should take 60 votes to end a filibuster on legislation or 51?
If we can end it with 51, we would have no problem. You're going to have to, the existing rule, it's going to be hard to get a parliamentary ruling that allows
See, I remember
50
parliaments
votes to end the filibuster.
back during the
existence of
Revolutionary War,
filibuster.
which I fought in briefly.
It's not my expertise in what the parliamentary rules and how to get there.
It's not my expertise.
Our preoccupation with the filibuster is totally legitimate, But in the meantime, we got a lot we can do.
And that's
while
what
we're
it
talking
says
about what we're
on
gonna
my
do about
podium.
filibuster. Let me get here. Okay.
Geraldo Rivera.
Cecilia Vega.
I'd like to circle back to immigration, please.
Circle back.
just
Are you
listed
Jen
the
Psaki?
reasons that people are coming, talking about in-country problems, saying that it happens every year. You blamed the last administration. Sir, I just got back last night from a reporting trip to the border.
She sounds mean.
Where I met 9-year-old Josel, who walked here from Honduras by himself, along with another little boy. He had that phone number on him. And we were able
Astounding.
to call his family. His mother says that she sent her son to this country because she believes that you are not deporting unaccompanied minors like her son.
And
That's
sending
why
a
she sent him
9-year-old
alone from
is a
Honduras.
perfectly good
So,
thing
sir,
for a
you
mother
blame
to
the last
do across
administration, but is your
a foreign
messaging
country.
in saying that these children are and will be allowed to stay in this country and work their way through this process?
Let 9-year-old
encouraging
Samuel
families
work
like
for a
yourselves
living.
to come?
I need somebody to
Look.
trim the smaller bushes at my house.
The idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, that if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side.
You want children to starve to death. I'm
No
Joe
previous
Biden.
administration
I don't
has done
do
it,
that.
Except Trump. I'm not going to do it.
Orange man bad.
I'm not going to do it. That's why I've asked the Vice President of the United States yesterday to be the lead
Michael
person
Pencil.
on dealing with focusing on the fundamental reasons
No,
why
Kamala Harris.
people leave Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador in the first place.
Because they
It's because
suck.
of earthquakes, floods.
The
It's
whole
because
place
of
fell
lack of
apart.
Food. It's because of gang violence. It's because of a whole range of things.
They're because of
That when I
earthquake
was vice
gangs.
president, had the same obligation to deal with unaccompanied children. I was able to get it slowed up significantly by working with the heads of state of those communities to do
I worked
things
with
like
the heads
in one
of
of the
state.
major cities. The reason people were leaving is they couldn't walk the street because they were getting their kids were getting beat up or shot or gang violence.
It was
Well,
like Los
what I was
Angeles
able
or
to do is not give
Chicago.
money to
Well, not
the
that bad.
state because so many are corrupt. But I was able to say, okay, you need lighting in the streets to change things.
Okay, you need
I'll put the lighting
lights.
in. We got.
You gotta open your
We got
eyes.
contract lighting. We paid directly to the contractor. Did not go through the government. And violent
The
crime
government is
significantly
bad.
reduced in that city. Fewer people sought to leave.
Fewer
When this
people sought
hurricane
to
occurred,
leave.
2 hurricanes. Instead of us going down and helping in a major way so that people would not have a reason to want to leave in the first place
Who
because
want
they
to
didn't have housing
leave?
or water or sustenance, we did nothing. We're going to do a lot in our administration.
We are going to do it
We're
all.
going to be spending that $700+
We are
million
going
a year.
to send out ice
Change the life
cream.
and circumstances of why people leave in the first place. That mother did not sit around with on the kitchen table and say, you know, I got a great idea. What I'm going to make sure my son get taken care of
That's right.
is I'm going to put a, how old was he or she?
Or they,
9-year-old.
A 9-year-old. I'm going to send him on
I'm
a
going to send
1,000-mile journey. across the desert
9-year-old
and up
on
to
a
the United
1,000-mile
States.
journey.
Because
It'll be
I
an
know Joe
adventure,
Biden's
like
a
a
nice
Disney
guy.
movie.
And he'll take care of him. What a desperate act to have to take.
That's Mother of the Year.
Circumstances must be horrible. So we can do something about that. That's what the vice president's going to be doing. What I did when President Obama asked me to come and deal, I was in
dealing like crazy.
Turkey at the time. He said, "You got to come home and take care of this." So we put together.
Come
a
on
plan
home,
that
Joe.
had an impact. And so the question here is how we go ahead.
With
and
a
do
house
it.
on my podium.
What we do. There's no easy answer.
I can
Quick
say
follow-up, if I may.
the easy
Do you
answer,
wanna see
but there
these
is no
unaccompanied
easy
minors
answer. I can't even see
staying
my
in
podium.
this country, or should they be deported eventually?
Well, the judgment has to be made whether or not, in this young man's case, he has a mom at home. There's an overwhelming reason why he'd be put in a plane and flown back to his mom.
But if he could get a job at a landscaper, then maybe he
You
stay.
mentioned circumstances that must be horrific.
I'm Joe
The
Biden.
Customs and Border Protection Facility in Donna, Texas, I was there, is at 1,556% capacity
Yep.
right now with mostly unaccompanied minors. There are
Yep.
kids that are sleeping on floors. They are packed into these pods.
American
I've spoken to
floors.
lawyers who say that some of these children have not seen the sun in days. What's your reaction? What is your reaction to these images that have come
It
out
must
from that
smell great
particular
in there.
facility? Is what's happening inside acceptable to you? And when is this going to be fixed?
That's a serious question, right?
I'm making a joke. I'm Joe
That's
Biden.
why we're gonna be moving 1,000 of those kids out quickly. That's why I got Fort Bliss opened up. That's why I've been working from the moment this started to happen to try to find additional access.
That's why I tripped on the
Children to be able to
stairs.
safely, not just children, but particularly children, to be able to safely be
Particular
housed
children.
while we follow through on the rest of what's happening. That is
Damn
totally
good
unacceptable.
smelling children's got to be saved.
Ken,
Ken and Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about Afghanistan. You face a May 1st deadline for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from that country. As a candidate in foreign affairs, you wrote that it is past time to end these forever wars.
Past time.
Can you commit to the American people that by May 2nd, the U.S. will no longer have forces in Afghanistan?
the answer is that it's going to be hard to meet the May 1 deadline.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make that deadline.
Tactical reasons, it's hard to get.
I'm very
troops out.
strategic.
So what we've been doing, what I've been doing, and what Secretary Blinken has been doing, we've been meeting with our allies, those other nations that have NATO allies who have troops in Afghanistan as well.
And their NATO allies, and their
and if
NATO
we leave, we're
allies.
going to do so in a safe and orderly way.
Safe and orderly.
We're in consultation, I said, with our allies and partners, and how to proceed.
And their
And
partners.
Secretary Blinken
And
is
their
meeting
partners.
in Brussels this week with our NATO allies, particularly those who have forces there. And General Austin is just met with Kayani, and I'm waiting for the briefing on that. He is the
I gotta get a briefing.
leader.
You can't ask me these questions with no briefing. Come on,
And,
man.
There's a UN-led process that's beginning shortly on how to mechanically get people, how to end this war.
And no one's
It is
better
not
at
my
ending
intention
wars than
to
the
stay
UN.
for a long time. But the question is, how and in what circumstances do we meet that agreement that was made by President Trump? to
Is that his name?
leave
It's Trump,
under a
right?
deal that looks like it's not being able to be worked out to begin with.
That was Orange
How-
Man
how
bad.
is that done?
Probably a bad deal. Maybe
But
we
we are not
stay.
staying a long time.
You know, and long is relative.
Do you think it's
It's
possible
20
that
years
We
really a
will
long
leave.
time.
The question is when we leave.
do you believe, though, it's possible we could have troops there next year?
I can't picture that being the case.
I can't picture much these days. My imagination is not working too well.
Okay, Kristen.
All right, Kristen, come on up. You won a prize.
Mr. President, given the conditions that
You're
were
the
just
next contestant
laid
on The
out
Price is Right.
at the migrant facilities at the U.S. border,
Oh,
will
again
you
with the
commit
migrants.
to allowing journalists to have access to the facilities that are overcrowded moving
This
forward?
woman sounds mean.
I will commit when my plan very shortly is underway
I got
to let you have
plans.
access to not just them, but to other facilities as well.
And I make sure you don't see them burrito
Have
kids.
access to the facilities. We've obviously been allowed to be inside one.
Obviously,
Haven't seen
Kristen.
facilities in which children are packed together to really give the American people a chance to see that. Will you commit to transparency on this issue?
I will
Mr.
commit to
I
transparency.
will commit to transparency,
And
Kristen.
as soon as I am in a position to be able to implement.
If
what
I
we're
remember
doing
this
right now.
conversation,
And one of the reasons I haven't gone down, all my chief folks have gone down, is I don't want to become the issue. I don't want to be,
Yeah.
you
know how little
bringing
kids
all
love
the
me.
Secret Service and everybody with me to get in the
oh,
way.
Secret
So
Service,
this is being
and
set up.
there'd be ice
and
cream
we'll have
vendors. Come on,
full
man.
Access to everything once we get this.
I need to have some
And just
time
to
with
be
the
clear,
children.
How soon will that be, Mr. President?
I don't know, to be clear.
I don't know. And is that
Responsibility for
answering the
everything that's
question?
happening at the border now. I hear you talking a lot about the past administration. You decided to roll
Damn it,
back
Christian.
some
You
of
won't
those
shut up.
Policies. Did you move too quickly
To roll back what, I'm sorry?
What?
Policies? did you move too
She don't talk
quickly
clear.
to roll back some of the executive orders of your predecessor?
First of all the policies that were underway were not helping at all.
Yeah,
Did not slow
none of
down.
them. Orange
None of
man
them.
bad.
And there's many people coming.
So
And
many people.
Rolling back the policies of separating children from their mothers, I make no apology for that.
I make
Rolling
none
back the policies
apologies.
of remain in Mexico, sitting on the edge of the Rio Grande.
No
in a
ice cream.
Circumstance with not enough to eat. I make no apologies for that.
I make
I
no
make
apologies.
for ending programs that did
Shut
not
up,
exist
Christian.
before Trump became president, that have an incredibly negative impact on the law,
Orange man bad.
international
On that
law,
wall.
as well as on human dignity.
Those kids,
So I make
they're going to
no-
graffiti that wall. We paid
To
for
ask you
it.
about foreign policy, Mr. President. Overnight, we learned
How
that
many
North
questions does this
Korea
woman get?
tested 2 ballistic missiles. What, if any, actions will you take, and what is your red line on North Korea?
Let me say that, number one,
That Kim Jong-un.
UN Resolution 1718 was violated by those particular missiles that were tested. Number
Oh,
one. We're consulting with our allies and partners.
and their partners
And,
and their allies
There will be responses if they choose to escalate.
with their partners and
We
their
will respond
allies.
accordingly. But I'm also prepared for some form of diplomacy.
Unless there's
but
a
it
lot
has
of
to be
steps.
Conditioned upon the end result of denuclearization. So
We got to
that's what we're doing
denuclearize
right now, consulting with our
the
allies.
North Koreans.
Very quick
You only
follow-up.
got another hour now, okay?
Diplomacy, can you define what you mean? And former President Obama warned the incoming President Trump that North Korea was the top foreign policy issue that he was watching. Is that how you?
Why you gotta
assess
bring up
the
Obama
President of
now?
Korea?
Yes,
Now I gotta say Obama's right.
okay.
You gotta make me live in his shadow.
Nancy?
He was my boss, okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to go back to voting rights, and as Yamiche mentioned, Republican legislatures
What?
across the country
Yamiche?
are
Who
working
the hell's
to pass
Yamiche?
bills that would restrict voting, particularly Democrats fear impacting minority
She's like
voters and young voters,
Sub-Zero's
the very people who helped
girlfriend
make
or
you
something.
elected in November. Are you worried that if you don't manage to pass
Why
voting
ask me
rights
if I'm worried?
legislation, that your party
Joe Biden
is
don't
going
worry.
to lose seats and possibly lose control of the House and the Senate in 2020?
that
What I'm
ain't
worried
gonna
about
happen.
is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick. It's sick.
It's sick.
Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water to people standing in line, waiting to vote. Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock
See,
when working people are just getting
That's
off
what
work.
it's all about. HR
Deciding
1's
that
about giving
there will
people
be no
water
absentee
standing in
ballots
line.
under the most rigid circumstances. It's all designed, and I'm going to spend my time doing 3 things. 1, trying to figure out how to pass the legislation passed by the House.
2, eat ice cream.
Number 2, educating the American public. The Republican voters I know find this despicable. Republican voters.
And both of them I know.
The folks outside this White House. I'm not talking
You
about
know, in the field.
the elected officials. I'm talking about voters.
I'm talking
Voters.
about, you know, those people who
So
yell at
I'm
me at
convinced
the hardware store that
We'll
time.
be able to stop this because it is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic,
And that's an important analogy that you all get.
and it cannot be sustained. And do everything in my power, along with my friends in the House and the Senate, to keep that from becoming the law.
And Jim Eagle.
Is there anything else you can do about it besides passing legislation?
The answer is yes, but I'm not going to lay out a strategy.
I may call up
in front of
Corn
the
Pop.
world and you now.
Corn Pop comes out,
Then, on
then
a
you're in
related
trouble.
note, have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election campaign yet, as your predecessor had by this time.
My predecessor needed to. My predecessor.
I'm the most popular president ever. I don't need to do that yet.
No, an answer is yes. My plan is to run for re-election. That's my expectation.
Absolutely. I only be
Partisanship. Your old friend,
145 teen years old.
says you have only spoken to each other once since you took office, and that you have moved far left since taking office. Do you see it the same way he does? Have you rejected bipartisanship?
No, I haven't at all. I've been meeting. When's the last time a president invited the opposite party down at least a half a dozen times to talk about issues, everything from how we work. We're working with a group of 20 members of the Senate right now and House on how we reestablish our ability to make computer chips.
I love them.
Get ahead of the game.
Republican.
Work together. We're working together on a bunch
You
of
know,
things.
I just insulted them, but I love them.
Mitch knows me well. I would expect Mitch to say exactly what he said. But this is a matter of making sure that I would like elected Republican support.
Not
What
the
I know I
unelected
have
one.
now is I have electoral support from Republican voters. Republican
Voters.
agree with what I'm doing. And so, unless Mitch says the
As
last thing I did is
I had
last piece
many of their
legislation
votes.
is so far
Most
left,
popular
then
president
you gotta take
ever.
it for this party. Over 50% of them must be over that edge as well, because they support what I did. Okay.
I am so
Where am I
popular.
here? Let me see. Caitlin?
Thank you very
Caitlin,
much,
don't
Mr.
be like that
I have a
Christian.
question for you, but first, I'd like to follow up on a question from Yamiche,
Ooh,
and that's on
hey.
the
That counts as
filibuster.
a question, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it quick. It's a
No,
quick
no, you
question.
I'm just
Regarding
joking with
the
you.
filibuster,
You're hot.
At John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama said he believed
Them
the
buttons
filibuster
are in
was
an
a
odd
relic
place,
of
aren't
the
they?
Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it if it's a relic of the Jim Crow era?
Let me think.
Successful electoral politics is the art of the possible. Let's figure out how we can get this done,
I kind of lost my breath
Direction.
in that moment.
of significantly changing the abuse of even the filibuster rule first. It's been abused from the time it came into being by an extreme way in the last 20 years. Let's deal with the abuse first.
And make sure
Moving closer
everybody
to
vote my
eliminating the
way.
Filibuster, is that correct?
I answered your question.
Yeah, I answered
You
your
also just made
question.
some news by saying that
Sit
you
your
are
cute
going
little
to
ass
run for
down.
re-election.
I said that is my expectation.
So is that a yes that you are running for re-election?
Look, I don't know where you guys come from, man. I've never been able to travel. I'm a great
Where'd you come
respected
from?
fate. I've never been able to plan 3.5 years ahead for certain.
4.5,
If you
3.5.
if
I
you
don't know
do
what we're
run,
gonna hold next
will Vice
election.
President Harris be on your ticket?
I would fully expect that to be the case. She's doing a great job. She's a great partner.
President Harris is one of the best.
And do you believe you'll be running against former President Trump?
Oh, come on. I don't even think about it.
Come on,
I have
man.
no idea.
I don't know.
I have no idea whether it'll be a Republican Party.
Orange man bad.
I know you don't have to answer my question, but I mean,
Do you think there'll be a
Do you-
Republican
look,
Party
this is-
after we pass all these laws?
what I do is I've become a great respecter of fate in my life. I set a goal that's in front of me to get things done for the people I care most about. The
Democrats
hard-working, decent American people who get really having it stuck to them.
that vote
I
Democrat
want to change
only.
the paradigm. I want to change the paradigm.
So everybody
And
vote
start to
Democrat.
reward work, not just wealth. I want to change the paradigm. If you notice, didn't you find it kind of interesting that my Republican friends were worried about that the cost and the taxes that had to be had, if there is any tax to be had, as they talk about it, in dealing with.
I don't even understand what I just
the
said.
act that we just passed, which puts money in people's pockets, ordinary people.
Ordinary
Did you
people.
complain when they passed close to $2 trillion Trump tax cut? 83% going to the top 1%?
Top
Did you
1%.
talk about that at all?
They talk
I
about that.
love the fact that
Joe Biden give you money.
this whole idea.
Not the
of-
$2,000 I
concern
promised, but
about
$2,000 altogether if you got it, if you
It's
qualify.
amazing.
It's
The federal
amazing.
budget is saving people's lives.
I'm saving people's
I think it's
lives.
such a good idea. When the federal budget is feathering the nest of the wealthiest Americans,
feather in the
90
nest.
of the Fortune 500 companies making billions of dollars not paying a cent in taxes.
Why can't they get their money from China
Reducing
like normal people?
taxes to the point that people who are making, if you're a husband and wife, school teacher, and a cop, you're paying at a higher rate than the average person making $1 billion a year is.
The cops that we must defund.
Something's wrong. Their newfound concern.
They're newfound concern.
Look, I meant what I said when I ran, and a lot of you still think I'm wrong, and I respect that.
And I don't remember
For
it.
3 reasons.
So could someone remind me?
To restore the soul, dignity, honor, honesty, transparency to the American political system.
Look how dignified I am.
2, to rebuild the backbone of this country.
The
The
backbone.
middle class.
Oh, that middle class.
Hardworking people and people struggling to get in the middle class. They built America.
They did it.
And unions built them.
And unions built them. And
The
I
third
built
thing
the
I said,
unions.
right, was to unite the country. And generically speaking, all of you said, no, you can't do that.
No.
Well, I've not been able to unite the Congress, but I've been uniting the country based on the polling data.
Yeah.
We
And
have to
I'm the
do
most
that.
popular president ever. More popular than Obama.
So, from my perspective, it's to me, it's about just getting out there, putting one foot in front of the other, and just trying to make things better.
And that's hard for me.
Just hard-working people.
Hard to
People get up
do
in the
that.
morning and just want to figure out how to put food on the table for their kids, to be able to
How
have
we
a
get
little bit of
food?
breathing room, being able to have make sure that they go to bed not staring to the ceiling like my dad did, wondering whether, since he didn't have health insurance, what happens if mom gets sick or he got sick. These are basic things.
Basic thing.
Basic things. And I'm of the view that the vast majority of people, including registered Republicans by and large, share that same view, that same sense of what is what's appropriate.
What is appropriate? A son
Justin
who has prostitutes
doesn't sing.
and smokes crack. They all got
Thanks,
one.
Mr. President. I wanted to ask about your relationship with China now that you've been in office.
I
for a couple months.
love the
There's
China.
Obviously, the meeting in Alaska that was a little theatrical, and there's the continued human rights.
I was
abuses.
shocked.
So today, I'm wondering, are you more likely than you were when you came into office to maintain tariffs on China? Are you considering banning
Tariffs?
imports of forced labor products?
What?
And
That's just a
would you
different
consider cutting off
culture.
U.S. investment or Chinese access to international payment systems?
Now watch me deflect.
Look, they're each specifically legitimate questions,
They're legitimate.
but they only touch a smidgen of what the relationship with China really is about.
It's much bigger than just
I've
people
known
being
Xi
tortured
Jinping
and
for a long
killed.
time. Allegedly, by the time I left office as vice president, I had spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader had.
Allegedly.
Because President Obama and the Chinese President Hu decided we could get to know one another.
We had
Which is
to.
inappropriate for the President of the United States to spend
Shut
time
up,
with the
dog.
Vice President of another country.
I had the Secret
He
Service
was
take you
obviously
out.
was going to become
Come here.
the new leader
Come
of
here.
China.
Get in here.
So I
in
spent
here.
hours upon hours with him, alone with an
And
interpreter,
my dog Champ
my interpreter and him,
bit the Secret Service.
going into great detail. He's very, very straightforward. Doesn't have a Democratic with a small D bone in his body, but he's a smart guy.
I
He's
like
one of
him.
the guys
I like the
like
Chinese.
Putin who thinks that autocracy is the wave of the future. Democracy can't function in an ever complex world.
The Russians, they don't
So-
give me stacks.
When I was elected and he called to congratulate me, I think to the surprise of the China experts who were his people on the call as well as mine listening, we had a 2-hour conversation.
2 hours. I don't know
2
what he
hours.
said. I don't speak
And we made
Chinese.
several things clear to one another. I made it clear to him again, what I've told him in person on several occasions.
2
that
more
we're not
stacks a
looking
week.
for confrontation, although we know there will be steep competition. 2,
right.
that we'll have strong competition, but we'll insist that China play by the international rules.
And no one
Fair
plays by the
competition.
rules better than
Fair
communists.
practices, fair trade. Thirdly, in order to compete effectively, I indicated
Come here, dog.
that we're going to deal with China effectively. And we're going to need three things to do that. I'm telling our people. First, we're going to invest in American workers and American science.
American workers
I said
and
it all
American
through the
science,
campaign,
doggy.
I say it again, and I'm setting up my administration to be able to do that, which is that, back in the 60s, we used to invest a little over 2% of our entire GDP in pure research and investment in science.
That was the 1860s.
Today, it's 0.7%. I'm going to change that. We're going to change that. The future lies
I'm going to
in
change
who
that.
can, in
We're
fact,
going to change that.
own
They're going to
the
change that.
future as it relates to technology, quantum computing, a whole range of things, including the medical fields.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, what I'm going to do is make sure we invest closer to 2%. One of the reasons why I've set up the PAB, the President's Board with scientists and the like, again, is we're going to invest in medical research, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, the things, industries of the future, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotech, and we're going to make real investments. China is out investing us by a long shot because their plan is to own that future. The second
They
thing
have
we're gonna do is
invested in me.
reestablish our alliances, and I've been very clear with them. It's not anti-Chinese, and we've talked about it. I want to make sure that, for example, later today, after this, as a matter of fact, shortly after this,
I got
it's
lots to
fine,
do.
I'm going close to an hour.
It's almost ice cream time.
Go longer, but one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be speaking with 27 heads of state in Europe. Very
Simultaneously.
shortly, I think within the next hour or so. I don't know the exact.
We're doing a Zoom call. It's going to be
And,
crazy.
earlier this month, and apparently it got the Chinese attention, that's not why I did it, I met with our allies and how we're going to hold China accountable in the region. Australia, India, Japan, and the United States, the so-called Quad. Because
We got
we
jackets.
have to have democracies working together. Before too long, I'm going to invite an alliance of democracies to come here to discuss the future. And so
What
I'm going to make it
would
clear
a future
that
hold?
in order to deal with these things, we are going to hold China accountable to follow the rules.
Yep. We're going to be tough on
Whether it
them.
relates to the
They're going to have to
South
pay me
China Sea, the
3
North China
stacks
Sea,
now.
or the agreement made on Taiwan, or a whole range of other things. And the third thing, and the thing that I admire about dealing with Xi is he understands. He makes no pretense about not understanding what I'm saying.
called him
and why I do
Xi.
him.
I thought it
Pointed
was
out
they.
to him, no leader can be sustained in his position or her position unless they represent the values of the country. And I said, Mr. President, as I've told you before, Americans value the notion of freedom.
Yeah.
America values human rights. We don't always live up to our expectations, but it's a value system. We are founded on that principle.
And that's why I had to lock
And
down
as
all the
long as
states.
you-
That's why the
your
Democrats
country
did it.
continues to
Because we
so
value
blatantly
freedom.
violate human rights. We are going to continue in an unrelenting way to call to the attention of the world and make it clear what's
That
happening.
you got to pay us more stacks.
And he understood that. I made it clear that no American president, at least one did, but no American president ever backed down from speaking out of what's happening in the Uyghurs, what's happening in Hong Kong, what's happening in country.
Never
That's
back
who we
down.
are.
That's a Joe Biden
The
rule.
moment a president walks away from that, as the last one did,
Orange man
is the
bad.
moment we begin to lose our legitimacy around the world. It's who we are.
He walked
So,
away and just put on
I see
tariffs and
stiff
threatened them
competition
and other
with
cowardly
China.
things that he did to be
China
aggressive.
has an overall goal, and I don't criticize them for the goal, but they have an overall goal. To
I don't
become
criticize
the
them at
leading
all.
country in the world,
They give me 2
the
stacks.
wealthiest country in the world, and the most powerful country in the world. That's not going to happen on my watch, because the United States is going to continue to grow and expand.
All right, just to follow
We're
up
gonna
on the
expand
democracy,
in the Middle
is that
East.
Where you expect in a multilateral way to make these decisions about sanctions or
No, that's not where I make the decision. That's where I make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, we're all on the same page.
All on the same page.
Listen up, Beardo.
Look, I predict to you, your children or grandchildren are going to be
How
doing
many
their
children did he
doctoral
have?
thesis on issue of who succeeded, autocracy or democracy.
Yeah, that's right.
What is at stake. Not just with China.
HR1,
Look
baby.
around the world. We're in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution.
A fourth
With
industrial
enormous
revolution.
consequence.
I remember the first three.
Will there be middle class? How will people adjust to these significant changes in science and technology?
That the Great Reset will bring us.
How will they do that? And our democracy is equipped because all the people get to speak, to compete.
That we allow.
It is clear, absolutely clear, and most of the scholars I dealt with at Penn agree with me around the country, that this is a battle between the utility of democracies in the 21st century and autocracies. If you notice, you don't have Russia talking about communism anymore.
You don't have Russia talking about no communism.
Demand decisions made by a leader of a country. That's what's at stake here. We got to prove democracy works.
Mr. President,
I'm the most popular president
I
ever.
haven't had a chance to address the tragedies in Georgia and Colorado. You had said to stay tuned for actions that you might take on gun control.
Stay tuned.
Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill that you had promised on day one to Capitol Hill, or executive actions like going after ghost guns or giving money to cities and states to battle gun control.
All the above. It's a matter of timing.
We are going to disarm
As
everybody.
you've all observed,
We're going to make this country as safe as
successful
Chicago.
presidents, better than me, have been successful in large part because they know how to time what they're doing.
Yeah, we wait until there's a tragedy, and then we pounce.
Decide in priorities, what needs to be done. The next major initiative is
Whoever gets shot
I'll be
next.
announcing it Friday in Pittsburgh in detail. Is
So line up some people, shooties.
rebuild the infrastructure, both physical and technological infrastructure of this country, so that we can compete and create significant numbers of really good paying jobs.
Good paying
Really
job.
good paying jobs.
You know, I've had work done here. It
And some
hurts
of
my
you
face
have
to
been
say
around
that
long
sometimes.
enough to know that used to be a great Republican goal and initiative. I
Now,
still think the majority
they
of
won't
American
spend people's money
don't
to
like
give the
fact
same
that
people
we
jobs.
now rank, 85th in the world in infrastructure. I mean, look, the future rests on whether or not we have the best airports that can accommodate air travel.
Or the best hi-fi
Ports that you
system.
get in and out quickly. So
Or the best
businesses
pay
decide.
phones.
Some of you, if you're ever local reporters, and you find your governor or mayor trying to attract business to your community, what's the first thing the business asks?
Where can I buy a fax machine?
Access to an interstate highway. How far am I from freight rail? Is the water available? Is enough water
The
available
canal
for me to
system.
conduct my business? All the things that relate to infrastructure. We have somewhere, I asked the staff to write it down for me, and they did, not for this, but for a longer discussion. We have somewhere, in terms of infrastructure, we rank 13th globally in infrastructure. China is investing 3 times more in infrastructure than the United
3
States.
times.
Bridges, more than 1/3 of our bridges, 231,000
Where the bridges at?
of them, need repairs. Some are physical safety risks or preservation work. 1 in 5 miles of our highways and major roads are in poor condition. That's 186,000 miles of highway.
And what about the horse and buggies?
Aviation, 20% of all flights weren't on time, resulting in 1.5 million hours lost.
And sitting in the
Production.
airport is boring.
6 to 10 million homes in America
Terrible.
still have lead pipes servicing their water lines.
Delicious lead.
We have over 100,000 wellheads that are not capped,
What?
leaking methane.
Little children fall in there. Good smelling children
way.
down the well.
We can
That's
put as
sad.
many pipe fitters and miners than us to work capping those wells at the same price that they would charge to dig those wells.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find it
Inconceivable.
frustrating. Frustrating. You talk about, last point I'll make in the infrastructure, and I apologize for spending more time on it, but is that if you think about it,
Let me pray
it's
now.
the place where we will be able to significantly increase American productivity, at the same time providing really good jobs.
Really good
people.
jobs.
But we can't build back to
Milkman.
what they used to be. We have to build, the environment's already, global warming's already done significant damage.
We're all underwater now.
The roads that used to be above the water level didn't have to worry about where the drainage ditch was.
All the water,
Now you gotta
all the roads
rebuild
underwater
3 feet
now.
higher. Because it's not going to go back to what it was before. Only get worse. unless we
Get
stop.
worse.
There's so much we can do. Look at all the schools in
That-
America.
Democrats closed.
Most of you live in the Washington area now. But in your hometown, down
Most of
where
the
you're all
country
from,
live in the Washington area.
How many schools where the kids can't drink the water out of the fountain?
How many? Them
How many
disgusting
schools are
mountains,
in a
the
position where
disgusting fountains, the
there's
little kids
asbestos?
lick.
How many schools in America we're sending our kids to don't have adequate ventilation? How many homes, buildings, office complexes are wasting billions of barrels of oil over time because they can't hold in the heat or the air conditioning because it's leaks through the windows that are so porous
Yeah,
in the connections.
I'm up at night,
It's amazing.
awake about this stuff.
There's so much we can do that's good stuff,
Good stuff.
makes people healthier, and creates good jobs.
And all we need is $10
And,
trillion.
I think that I got one more question here. Janet from Univision.
Oh, she's gonna
Thank
be
you,
hot.
Mr. President, we too have been reporting at the border, and just like Cecilia, we ran into a pair of siblings who came in on Monday, were detained by CBP, had the phone number
Show the
for
Spanish
their
lady.
mother who lives in the U.S. We have contacted the mother. That's the only way they know her kids are here because CBP
Her
today,
accent
Thursday, has
confuses
not
me.
contacted
Look at
that
my
mother.
face.
So when can we expect your promise of things getting better?
Oh, we can't see
with
Janet?
contacting and
I wanna
Well,
see
they're
Janet.
already getting better, but they're going to get real. They're going to a whole hell of a lot better real quicker. We're going to hear some people leaving. Okay. We
I don't
can
know
get
what he
this
just
done.
said or what I just
We're
said.
going to get it done. I had a long meeting with the entire team and several cabinet level officers the other night. We're going to be moving within the next week over 100,000. I mean, 1,000 people out of the border patrol.
100,000
into
people out of the border.
security beds and facilities. We're going to significantly ramp up. We're already out there.
But I didn't correct
contacting
myself when I said
everyone
120
from
years.
some of the employees at HHS. There's a lot of them doing other things and move them into making those calls. We're in the process of rearranging and providing for the personnel needed to get that done.
That's right.
But I admire the fact that you were down there, you're making the calls yourself.
Show the
It's
hot
real.
Spanish
The
lady.
next thing that has to happen, though, as you well know, has to happen, there have to be some certitude that this
Certitude.
is actually mom.
Oh, now I'm
dad,
getting away from the
mother.
microphone.
And there's ways to do that.
I don't know
There's
microphones
ways to do
very
that,
well.
A little bit like
I've
determining
only
whether
been
or
doing
not
this
you got
120
the
years.
right code for your credit card. You know, what was your dog's name, kind of thing. I'm being a bit facetious, but not really. And also seeking harder
Oh,
data. from
Yeah,
DNA
I have to explain my
to
jokes. That's how
birth
good they are.
certificates, which takes longer. So I want to do this as quickly, as humanly possible, and as safely as possible.
Well, no, treating the root causes in Latin America doesn't
She
change
got a
things
second
overnight.
question?
How do you realistically and physically keep these families from
I'm gonna
coming
come
to
over
the
and
US
sniff you
when
now.
things will not get better in their
I'm
countries
coming.
right away?
I'm coming.
Well, I can't guarantee that, but I know, that old thing, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
That a
You know
9-year-old
as
makes
well
to
as I
this
do.
country.
You cover it. You have serious. It's not like
'Cause
somebody
I
sitting
invited
on
them.
a hand-hewn table in Guatemala. I mean, in somewhere in Mexico,
But not
or
Guatemala.
in Guadalupe, saying, "I got a great idea. Let's sell everything we have, give it to a coyote, have them take our kids across the border into the desert where they don't speak the language. Won't that be fun? Let's go."
Now, see, I'm being sarcastic.
People don't want to leave. When my great-grandfather got in a coffin ship in the Irish Sea,
A coffin ship?
expectation was he going to live long enough on that ship to get to the United States of America?
It was a
They-
damn
that's what
coffin
the
ship.
Brits have been doing.
What
They're
the?
in real trouble. They didn't want to leave, but they had no choice.
No choice.
So we can't. I
Only
can't
the
guarantee
choice
we're
of
gonna
every
solve
other
everything,
country in the world.
but I can guarantee we can make everything better.
Everybody
better.
can come, and we will make
We
it
change
better.
the lives of so many people. And the other thing I want to point out to you, and I hope you point out, I realize it's much more heart-wrenching, and it is, to deal with a 5 and 6 and 7-year-old. But you went down there and you saw the vast majority of these children.
These great smelling
70%
children.
are 16 years old, 17 years old, and mostly males. Doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent. But the idea that we have tens of thousands of kids in these god-awful facilities that are really little babies crying all night, there's some, that's
See,
true.
they're not really
That's
kids.
why we got to act. And yesterday, I asked
They're only
my
kids in
team,
cages when
both the
Orange
directors of
Man's
two
in
agencies
office.
as well as others, I asked them what would they in fact, and I asked their opinion because they're the experts, but I said, focus on the most vulnerable immediately. But there's no reason why in the next month as people cross the border, that phone call can't be made in the first 48 hours.
See, modern technology,
If I may ask one
phones.
last question. Have you had any talks with Senate Republicans who are threatening this administration with not considering the immigration legislation that was passed in the House until the situation at the border has been resolved?
No, because I know they have to posture for a while.
Yeah, they have to posture.
Just gotta
They
get
don't have the
it out of
votes.
system.
Heh.
This is a
HR1, baby.
but I'm ready to work with any Republican
Who votes for me
who wants to help
and do what I
solve
say
the problem or make the situation better.
by
Folks,
listening to me.
I'm going. Thank you very, very much.
I'm
I
going.
appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm out of here. No more Larky. Bye. There I go. Oh, I look good walking out of there. Oh, I look great. Thank you, CNET, for playing that. I think I look good. I think I came across good. Didn't I, doggy? Oh, you shouldn't have bit that Secret Service agent. That was not good. That was not good, little doggy. That's why you had to go back to Delaware. The Secret Service can't be bitten by little doggies like this. That's no good. Well, I'm Joe Biden, reacting to Joe Biden. I hope you enjoyed it. And please watch some of my other videos. And come on, man. That's it. Good night.